submission, it says that where there is knowledge, there is faith. And where there is faith, there is love. And where there is love, there is peace. And where there is peace, there is God. And where there is God, there is no need. That's the end of the poem. Are we together? Where there is knowledge, there is faith. Because he says that you cannot say you have faith without knowledge. Are we together? You cannot claim to be faithful without knowledge. You're doing things you don't understand. And that's exactly the problem that we have faced as a community or as the world today. People acting out of ignorance. There is no knowledge. There is no seeking of knowledge. Yet it is very, very fundamental to almost all our religions. They stress the importance of seeking knowledge. From the Islamic perspective, when we read about the first verse to be revealed to Prophet Muhammad, it was Iqra. I'm speaking, this is my session by the way, don't worry. So we are just going to be sharing about interfaith and youth and what exactly you can do in your communities to promote interfaith and peaceful coexistence. The world today, our biggest challenge is people are not seeking knowledge. And that's why we are acting out of ignorance. And young people like you are being used ignorantly. They use you because you do not know. If you knew, you cannot accept to be used. Are we together? You do things out of knowledge. So I commend the principle for stressing the importance of seeking knowledge. It's where everything starts. So knowledge is very key. Whichever knowledge it is, as long as it is knowledge that is changing you, it is moving you from just being a potential human being to being a true human being. Because knowledge makes you different from an animal. You're not just like a stone or somewhere, put somewhere, or a chair that you've been put there. You must act differently, speak differently, be different. And that will only happen if you seek knowledge. So when we talk about interfaith, we're talking about different religions, different faiths coming together, doing positive things. You can have your own definition of what interfaith is. But just know the most important aspect, what we are talking about when we talk about interfaith, is promoting understanding, promoting cooperation, transforming our communities, because there is a lot that we can do. Our religions are not just there, to make us be very fearful. When I'm always in the mosque, you hear people preaching, fear God, fear God, fear God. Oh, you people, you must fear God. And you're like, God, why should I fear him? Seriously. Fear God, fear God. So religions are not supposed to make us really shake all the time. They're supposed to make you a strong person who understands how the world moves. Because yesterday I was listening to Imam Bashar, who was saying that I'm speaking from the Muslim perspective. We pray, Rabbana atina fi dunya hasana. That God give me the best of this world and the best of the hereafter. The best of this world comes with knowledge. If you're armed with knowledge, you're going to get the best of this world. And why the focus on the youth? Because it is easy to build strong children than to repair broken men. It is easy to engage the young generation, because building peace means building peace-loving young men and women. You know what the preamble of the UNESCO states? That since wars begin in the minds of men, wars begin in the minds of men. So it's in the minds of men that defenses of peace must be created or built. So engaging the young generation is trying to create the defenses of peace. And what can actually help us to get there apart from religion? Speaking from the Ugandan context, almost 98% of Ugandans are religious people. Like they believe in a religion. Whichever religion it is, but they believe that there is the higher power. They believe in something. Are we together? So why can't we use that as an opportunity? Use that as an opportunity to engage each other. To ask ourselves questions. Questions that are not just, questions for the sake of questioning ourselves, but questions that move us from where we are to the next level. That how can we do things together? How do we draw from our spiritual resources to transform our communities? Because we have challenges, for example, of health. We have challenges of poverty. The young people here today, unemployment. So how can we draw from our spiritual resources what your Christianity says, what your Islam says, and we transform our communities? When you talk about religion, we're talking about three things. We're talking about the holy, and those are the holy books, holy places and everything. We're talking about the spiritual, those devotions, the word. And then we're talking about the everyday. How we interact every day, because even religion tells us how to interact every day. So interfaith dialogue, interfaith action cuts across, because there is also what we call the respect for the sacred. If you want to be a good person to me, you must respect what I believe in. Are we together? You must respect my holy book, and I must respect yours as well. It is not right for anyone to say that they don't respect your rosary or they don't respect what you believe in. From the Muslim perspective, it is not allowed to ridicule what someone believes in. Not even insult their idols, because even the Prophet was told not to insult their idols. Was told to tell everyone not to insult the idols, because if you insult them, they will insult your God. They will insult your God as well. So respect the sacred. You respect what they believe in. In fact, God told, respect their idols. Respect what they believe in. Because that promotes peaceful coexistence. I'm talking about the holy. Respect the holy places. The spiritual, how people believe, how they pray, how they engage each other. We must respect that. And the everyday, that is interfaith action. What can we do together? But I'll take it back to what the principal was saying, that all that comes with knowledge. We must seek knowledge. We must try to understand ourselves first, understand our communities, the communities around us. And then from that moment, we know we are in position to change our communities. You are the change. The young people today, you are the change. Uganda has the second largest population of young people in the world. Isn't that a blessing? Isn't that a blessing? But then when we ask ourselves, what kind of young people do we have? Because yes, it's a blessing we have young people. But then what kind of young people? Are they prepared for the future? Are they prepared to be the empowered young people that we want? The empowered generation of young people. Because if you're empowered, your actions are enlightened. Are we together? Whatever you do it out of knowledge. You're enlightened. You do things out of knowledge. So my brothers and sisters today, it is very, very important to always focus on how best you can change your community. No one is going to do it for you. It's not going to be Imam Bashar coming from America, USA to come and change your community. He comes here to inspire you to do things, to inspire you to change your communities. Because you have the power to do that. You must believe in yourself. This is how change happens. Change doesn't just happen like that. It's a gradual process. It's a gradual process. Change happens in 4 dimensions. There is what we call the personal dimension, that you yourself must change. Are we together? Change must first happen within you. Your attitude, like how you see the world, it must first happen within you. So if you want to change your community to a better community, you must first change yourself. Then we have what we call the relational dimension, and how you relate with others. How do you treat others? How do our religions teach us to treat people? How does Christianity tell you to treat others? This is what we say in almost all religions, that do unto others. Do unto others. Please complete. Didn't you study these things? Do unto others.
You do to yourself.
Do. Do unto others. Please don't look down. I want answers. Do unto others
what you would want them to do unto you.
What you want them to do unto you. Do unto others.
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. So it spans across all religions, that you must do unto others what you want them to do to you. How are we together? The way you treat others. If you treat people badly, let me say it this way. If you hate the way someone treats you, just know that if you treat them the same way, they will not like it. Are we together? So do unto others what you want them to do to you. Almost all religions teach that. So the relational dimension of change that I'm talking about, we must also focus on treating others well, as our religions teach us. And then that will shift into the cultural dimension. When we all change the relational dimension, our cultures must also change as well. Are we together? And then that will transform into the structural dimension, which I don't want to go into. So my brothers and sisters, I call upon you to always be tolerant and respectful. Because if you learn how to tolerate others, you learn how to live. You cannot live in isolation in this world. You cannot. You'll only live if you decide to be respectful. Are we together? Please be tolerant. Tolerance is very, very important in how you treat others. How do you look at the world? Those are key things that we must always try to focus on. So my brothers and sisters, I know we can always discuss, issues to do with interfaith and youth, but just know that today the responsibility lies upon your shoulders, the shoulders of the young people. You must do something. There is need, and where there is need, you must take a lead. I know one of those days, inshallah, in the coming days, we're going to be talking about leadership. How can you be a leader? You don't need a position to be a leader as a young person. You don't need to be called CEO or president or what to do something. You have the power to change your community, to be a leader, because there is a need in your community. Know your purpose. How do we know our purposes? How do you know your purpose? You know Aristotle? Yes. You know Aristotle? Okay, how do you know him? Who is Aristotle?
Aristotle is he's a philosopher. He has written some books, literature, and I've seen him in law as well.
She's an empowered young lady. Yeah, so Aristotle is a Greek philosopher, and he said that where your talents and the needs of the world cross, there lies your purpose. So what's your talent? If you want to know how you want to contribute to the world, what's your talent? As a young Muslim, as a young Christian, what's your talent? And what's the need of the world? What does the world need today? We want peace. That's one of our biggest needs. Safety, security. Are we together? So what are your talents and how can they help in transforming that? If it is speech, if it is good communication skills, how can you use them to transform the world? You're good at something. God created you with a lot of strength. You're different from an animal. You're different from a stone somewhere. You're different from something that you just see anywhere. So how do you change the world? How do you use your talents and skills and to understand the needs of the world, to understand your purpose? Are we together? So when we talk about interfaith and the youth, we're talking about a whole range of issues that we must always focus on. I know time cannot always be on our side, but we can always share one thing or two. We have a wide and a very big network of interfaith and interfaith students movement in the country, where we have universities from different regions which are part of that. So you can always check it out on Facebook. It's called the Student Connectors Network. So there, you can always share information. See what your friends are doing to change their communities, because they do something. You too can do something. That's why you will get inspiration to know what can I do as a student or in my capacity. At this particular time in your life, this is the most important time in your life to change things. But only things will be changed only if you decide that I am the change. So repeat after me, I am the change. I am the change. Thank you so much and God bless you. So I want to thank myself. Anyway, so there is no one to thank me, so can I call someone to thank me here? Please. Philemon, come and thank me. Say just a word of thank you and we go back.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm called Ogut Philemon from Chambogo University. I'm a Christian. Since they have just called me here to give a vote of thanks to this gentleman here, I will not go astray from that. So I take this opportunity to thank the pre-cadet speaker who has been on the floor, and I also encourage everyone who is inside this building, inside this room, to take seriously the words he has been preaching to us, because the very words you have heard from him, they are the very words which other people have heard from him, and those very words have transformed their lives. So, as I summarize, the words you have heard, the words you have heard, they are good words, and they have work in them, as you always say nowadays. Thank you very much.
Well, doesn't it feel good to be thanked? It feels good to be thanked, by the way. Though I don't always like to be thanked for things that I've done, but I'm just telling you that it is important to thank people. It's part of dialogue. It's part of transforming our communities. You see, very small things that sometimes you may despise. Just like a simple thank you. Thank you can promote dialogue, can promote peaceful coexistence. in our communities. How many times do people do things for you and you just walk by? You know, you don't even want to know. This is not because I want to be thanked, I don't like it, but just to show you that it is important to thank people for the things they do for you. Are we together? Because it promotes peaceful coexistence and quite a number of other things. So thank you so much for listening as well. I'm thanking you. Thank you so much.